Welcome, everyone. So I'll be leading a meditation, guided meditation, for about 40 minutes, but it will have different parts to it. We'll start by reciting some prayers that'll be shown on the screen. Again, if you want to join the prayers, you can. If not, you can just listen and do your own contemplation. Following the prayers, I'll lead a motivation to, just generate a good state of mind as to why we're here today. And then we'll spend the first 10 or 15 minutes doing mostly silent meditation on the breath. I'll give some instructions on that to start with. And then after about another 10-15 minutes of that, I'll lead a guided, what we call analytical meditation. So this is like a contemplation, thinking about certain ideas related to the book that Venerable Chodron will be reading from and talking about afterwards, which is Working with Anger. It's very useful, relevant topic, how to work with our anger. Because anger doesn't only include rage and that kind of thing, but even low-level feelings of aversion, dislike, disgust, impatience. So there's low-level forms of anger that we probably experience many times each day. And so, it's really useful to pay more attention to that state of mind and recognize how it's not very helpful for anybody, and then learn ways of working on it. So we'll do a short meditation on that theme. And so So the prayers are just, partly to help us get into a good state of mind for being here. Sorry, having trouble with doesn't want to cooperate. Okay.
I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create, by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create, by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create, by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings not be separated from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. Tayata Om Mune Mune Maha Mune Soha. Tayata Om Mune Mune Maha Mune Soha. Tayata Om Mune Mune Maha Mune Soha. Tayata Om Mune Mune Maha
So one of the prayers that was just recited is called the 4 Immeasurables. And these are 4 really positive, beautiful thoughts that we try to generate in our mind, basically wishing all sentient beings to be happy and for all of them to be free of all suffering, all problems, all bad experiences, and for them to have the most perfect happiness that is without any suffering, and for them to have an unbiased attitude towards others so that they don't have strong clinging and craving, grasping at some people, and then aversion and hatred towards other people. Have an even, balanced state of mind that's open to everybody. So see if you can feel how wonderful it would be if all of those things could come about for yourself and for everyone else. Then connect that with what we're doing here today in this series of activities. See if you can wish that you will learn things here today that will help you to make those things possible for yourself and others, to bring about genuine peace and happiness, freedom from suffering, freedom from hatred and strong grasping, self-centered grasping for yourself, for all other people and all other beings. Now, let's take a few minutes to make sure we're really settled down in the present. So first, pay attention to your body, how your body feels. And see if you notice any tightness or tension anywhere in your body. Maybe in your back or in your stomach. And if you do notice any tension, just lightly, gently focus on that place and tell yourself to relax, to let go of that tension. And imagine it melting and flowing away and disappearing. And in case that doesn't work, another thing you can try is to imagine breathing into that place in your body. Just imagine the air you're breathing in going to that place, and then loosening up, letting go of that tension. And then it's also good to relax the mind. That means putting aside any thoughts, busy activity in the mind, like thinking about something you did earlier today, or thinking about something you're going to do later today, or tomorrow, next week, and so on. Put aside all those thoughts of other times, other places, and just let your mind, your awareness be right here, in this moment, in this place. And that's not so easy to do because our mind has the tendency to be running here and there. But a helpful way to settle down the mind is to watch the breath, be aware of the breath. So we'll do that for about 10 minutes. So just breathe normally. Don't change your rate of breathing or control your breathing. Just let your body breathe as it normally does. And then with your mind, be aware of the breath coming in and going out with each breath, one breath after another. And you can, different people have different ways of watching the breath. Some do it at the nostrils, where you can feel a slight sensation of the air coming in and going out of your nostrils, or on your upper lip. You might be able to feel the breath there. Another possibility is watching your abdomen, just feeling your abdomen going in and out with each breath. But you can also find your own way of paying attention to the breath, wherever you're able to feel it most clearly and you're able to keep your mind focused on it. So find a place where you can feel your breath, be aware of your breath, and then just try to keep your awareness at that place and just observe the breath coming in and then going out. And it can be helpful to verbalize mentally this process, like saying to yourself, breathing in, breathing out, and then count your breaths. So breathing in, breathing out 1, and then breathing in, breathing out 2, and so on. And if you're new to this practice, just count up to 5. And then when you get to 5, go back to 1, start again at 1. So you just count in rounds of 5 breaths. If you're more experienced, you can try going up to 10 breaths and really see if you can keep your mind focused on your breathing for that many breaths. But the point isn't counting. The point is to be aware of the breath. So that should be the main thing, and the counting is just an aid to help us stay focused. And you don't have to do it, it's optional. But it can be helpful to just keep the focus, keep the concentration. And anytime you notice your mind has wandered away, which will probably happen, so don't be surprised or upset. But when you do notice your mind has wandered away and is thinking about something else or paying attention to some sound in the room or outside or whatever, anything other than the breath, as soon as you realize that's happened, then disengage your mind from that other object and bring it back to the breath. And don't worry if you have to do this again and again. It's just part of the practice, and it's helping you to become more aware of your mind, your thoughts, and helping you develop a bit more concentration. So now we'll move on to the analytical or contemplative meditation. And here we're going to be using thought, thinking, but we still want to try to keep our minds focused on this topic that we're meditating on and not wandering away to other things. So if you start thinking about what's for lunch or the movie you saw last night, then it's best to let go of those thoughts, put those thoughts aside, and come back to what we're supposed to be meditating on here. So in last month's Sharing the Dharma Day, we explored some of the problems that are caused by anger. For example, it affects us physically. We immediately feel tense, on edge. And also, research shows that long-term anger can lead to serious illness, even life-threatening illnesses. So it's bad for our body to get angry. And it also disturbs our mind. We may be feeling peaceful and happy, but when anger bursts into our mind, it makes our mind agitated, anything but peaceful and happy. Anger can also incite us to do harmful things, even to those who are close to us. So it can damage relationships with our family members, with friends, neighbors, co-workers. And in extreme cases, anger can lead to breaking the law and having to go to prison. So check to see if these things are true in your experience. And then another problematic thing about anger is that it causes us to see things like people and situations in distorted ways, unrealistic ways, much worse than they really are. And to get a sense of this, bring to mind an incident where you got angry at someone who was an important person in your life, like a parent or another family member or a teacher. But since this is Mother's Day, you might want to think of your mother. This is the day when we remember and feel grateful for all the kind things our mothers have done for us. But we can also get angry at our mother. So you might want to recall an experience of being angry at your mother. But it's your choice. Feel free to think of someone else from whom you received help and kindness, but toward whom you sometimes got angry. So when you have thought of such an experience of being angry at this other person, see if you can remember your thoughts at that time. And see if you can notice if your mind focused on things about the person that you didn't like, or things that they did that you didn't like. So you just focused on these things you didn't like about the person. And it was as if you forgot or ignored any good things that the person did, things that were helpful to you. And at the time when you were angry at that person, did it seem as if they were 100% bad or negative? as if there was nothing good or worthwhile about them? And if you recognize that that was how your mind was operating at that time, seeing them as 100% bad, nothing good, ask yourself if that's true. Are you seeing that person in a realistic way or in a distorted, one-sided way? And to counteract this way of thinking, it's good to bring to mind things that that person did that were kind and helpful to you, and also good qualities that they have. Spend some time bringing to mind those things, positive things about the person, but also kindnesses that they showed to you, things they did that were helpful for you. And finally, check to see if this contemplation has had an effect on your mind, on the way you see that person or think about that person. So if you find that helpful, you could use it with other people as well, even people you don't know very well, like public figures. I think, oh, they have some good qualities too. They do some helpful things too, even if it's not to you yourself, but to others. And doing this meditation isn't denying that the person has done harmful things or they do have some not so good qualities, but it's just to see them in a more balanced way instead of only focusing on the bad. It can really help to open up our mind and our heart. Okay, so let's dedicate the merit, the positive energy of doing this meditation. We can just do it mentally, sharing the merit with others. So just in your mind, think that the positive energy we've created so far today during this session of meditation, may it bring peace, happiness, well-being to all living beings and help them all have more positive states of mind, less anger and more love and compassion. Okay, I guess we can say the prayers down there. I wasn't sure if they were going to come up.
Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Thank you, Venerable. So we can now rise as Venerable Khadro leaves the hall. And so now we have a 15-minute break. So we'll keep this space a silent space if you want to continue your reflection. Just so you know, there's a Dharma Books and Things room downstairs. So there's the book that we'll be looking at for the talk, Working with Anger, as well as many other books and other things. You can enjoy the deck. And please come back here about 5 minutes before the talk, and we'll invite Venerable Chodron here. So thank you.
Om Mune Mune Maha Mune Soha Tayata 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 Om Mune Mune Maha Mune Soha.
Okay, hello everybody. I've been away for 5 weeks, so it's really nice to come back and see all you sharing the Dharma Day people here. Yeah, so welcome. Yeah, and the last sharing the Dharma Day was we started a new text. Working with anger, which I know that none of you need to do because you don't have a problem with anger. But all these mean, obnoxious people that disturb your peace of mind, you're going to give them the book, right? Yeah. So, yeah, it always happens that way. Yeah. That the nice people come to the Dharma teachings and the people who need help with anger don't come. Imagine that. Yeah. And nobody here gets angry, right? Oh, look. So innocent. She sits there. I can see the halo. Yes. So just in case some people, like me, happen to get angry, and need some help, then this book came along. Yeah, I should say that, I wrote the book, but it's entirely plagiarized, okay? It's all the work of Shantideva, an 8th century Buddhist sage who lived in India. And he wrote a book called Engaging in the Bodhisattva's Deeds. And the chapter 6 was on fortitude. So I didn't think I had a problem with anger. But then my teacher sent me to do a very difficult job with some really dreadful people. And all the conflict was their fault. Yeah, me, totally innocent, right? Same as you when you have conflict, right? Yeah, you're the innocent one. Other people, the mean, obnoxious, hostile, spiteful people. So I was in that position. So in the daytime, in my job, I would get furious, but I didn't share it out, because we women have been cultivated to be sweet and nice. Yeah. My mom knew how to yell. But but I didn't want to really put that on anybody, so I was very sweet. And it began to crack because I was getting really angry. So getting angry in the daytime, going back to my room in the evening, reading chapter 6 of Shantideva's text, getting myself calmed down, going into my office the next day, getting angry again, coming back that evening, reading chapter 6 some more. And that's how I got familiar with that book. And so everything in working with anger came from Shantideva. It's not my ideas. He's not suing me for plagiary, although it would be great if he were still alive now. He lived 8th century, so isn't. But what's remarkable about his work is that what he said applies to our situation now. So whenever we think, oh, human beings now are so much more advanced than people were in the past, all we have to do is get in touch with our own anger or bitterness or frustration. And we realize, hey, all the human beings of all cultures at all historical times had the same afflictive emotions. Yeah, they may have come out in a different way, yeah, in a different avenue, but the emotions and how we express them, remarkable similarity, yeah. So there's a lot to learn from these old sages, yeah. So it isn't just a process of learning up here, yeah, because the things that Shantideva teaches, are not terribly difficult to understand, but to practice them and to transform our way of seeing things, that's hard, okay? Because basically, when we're angry, things are quite simple. The situation is very simple. Yeah, you're right. No, you're not right. I'm right and you're wrong. And the solution is you change. Yeah, isn't that the resolution to every situation we're in where there's a disagreement or where somebody is harming our interests? Yeah, we're right, they're wrong, they change. Then problem solved. Problem is that these people are so stupid, they don't change and do it my way. Yeah, and even more, They accuse me of being the stupid, stubborn one and not doing it their way. But why would I do it their way, which is so clearly wrong and mine is so clearly right? Okay, you ever felt like that? Okay, so we go through our life trying to change other people, because we think if only they would change, then I would be happy. Yeah, and we give them our wonderful advice about how they can change. And they look at us like we're nuts, and they say, mind your own business. And they say some other things that I won't repeat too. But, they don't want to hear that at all. Our beautiful advice. And so what we, are in this conflict with external people in the world because we have an idea about how it should be and it doesn't conform to what we want. Yeah. And, and we keep trying to change the people around us, trying to change everything else. Yeah. Never questioning for a moment that maybe the problem lies in here. Yeah. Maybe I'm the one who's exaggerating the situation. Maybe I'm the one who's being picky about things that aren't worth being picky on. Maybe I'm the one who insulted somebody. Okay. So this is, one thing that is so important in our Dharma practice is looking inside, yeah, because we cannot change the world. We can influence other people, but we can't crawl inside anybody else and change who they are and how they act. Yeah, the only one we could possibly do anything with is ourselves. Yeah, and so, looking inside and saying, okay, there was a conflict. What was my role in it? Yeah, that actually takes some courage, especially when we've grown up thinking that whenever there's a conflict, we're right. Yeah, so to, even consider that sometimes we're the one who has needled somebody or hasn't been reliable or whatever. That's something new that we are not familiar with and we have to get used to. Yeah, and we find that when we do this, yeah, and we could see the parts of ourselves where we exaggerate, misunderstand, provoke, and start to work with those things and lessen them. We can see when we do that, that lo and behold, we get along better with other people. And we also feel more peaceful. Yeah. Now, granted, some people like a big fight. I worked with somebody once who he got his own identity by pushback with others. Yeah, so always debating everything, pushing back, and that's how he was able to clarify his own ideas. But it created a lot of conflict. So, to really look, if we're the kind of people who like a quarrel, because it's invigorating, and you can show your power, then check again if it really brings happiness into your life and good feelings in your relationships with other people. Yeah. And so a question to ask ourselves is, am I happy when I'm angry? Are you happy when you're angry? Do you go, oh, yippee, I feel so good. I'm so pissed off at somebody. You know, I have the perfect plans for how to retaliate and get even. Oh, I'm so happy and excited. Yeah? Is that what makes us happy? Mm-hmm. So, if anger were the cause of human happiness, we should all be over the moon joyful when we're angry. Yeah? But I haven't met anybody like that. Yeah, and I'm not that way myself. So it makes us say, well, is anger really, helpful for human happiness? Yeah. And then we go to the other extreme. One extreme is, yay, anger, I'm going to get my way, I'm powerful. The other extreme is, oh, well, that must mean all I have to do is capitulate to the other person to keep peace. Yeah, and so in family life, sometimes you have it, one partner, just like, oh, well, there he goes on his temper tantrum. I just, keep my mouth closed, don't say anything. Sometimes that's a good strategy, but sometimes we really need to talk to somebody. And, capitulating doesn't mean we're not angry. Yeah, because you can capitulate. You can put yourself in a lower position and be furious. Yeah, and the other person says, oh, I'm powerful. I smashed you. I'm powerful. But they're happy. The powerful person is happy because they think, oh, now those people who caved into me respect me. Actually, the people who caved in and are just going along with it instead of participating in a discussion, they may be afraid and they may do what the other person wants out of fear, but that doesn't mean they respect that person. Fearing somebody and respecting them are two different things. Yeah. At least for me, respect involves that I trust somebody's good motives. When I'm afraid of somebody, I don't really trust what's going on in their mind. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there are times when it's certainly very appropriate to speak up and to engage in a dialogue and try and sort the problem out, not just throwing up our hands and saying, I give up. Okay. So, it's important to know when and how to do that. And this is one of the reasons nonviolent communication is so useful. Yeah, because it teaches us how to get our own mind to the place where we can bring up these kinds of things. But I'm supposed to be reading from the book. Yeah, so that was the introduction, long one. Venerable Sangye Khadro started the book at the last Sharing the Dharma day and stopped at page 18. So I will continue reading from there and then also make some comments. Yeah. Okay, so this section is called The Possibility of Change. So, subduing negative emotions and cultivating positive ones is possible because, according to Buddhism, we do not have a fixed, solid personality. This is important Because we often feel like, well, I'm just like that. You know, somebody could say, I'm an angry person. I've always been an angry person. I'm just an angry person. I'm going to be like that. So all my family members, you just better get used to it. I'm not changing. And saying, you know, I'm just that way. I have a fixed personality. Do we? Yeah. Did you come out of the womb holding on to hard and fast opinions? Did you come out of the womb angry? Yeah. You think when you were a baby and you cried, you think you were angry? Or were you just saying, you know, feed me, but you didn't know how to say it in words, so you went, ah. Yeah. I don't think we have a fixed personality, because if we look, yeah, we're actually a compilation of a lot of contradictory mental states. Sometimes we're very generous, and sometimes we're stingy. Yeah? Does that apply to anybody here? Or am I just always talking about myself because none of you have these things? Yeah? Sometimes we're very kind, and sometimes we're belligerent. Yeah. We don't have a fixed personality. There may be certain mental or emotional habits that we're very familiar with, but they are habits. They are not who we are. So I think it's very unfair to ourselves to say, well, I'm just like that, so live with it. Yeah. Instead of saying, hey, you know, we are always changing. We've been changing in every single moment since we got conceived in our mother's womb, and we're going to continue changing. So why not change in a way that's productive and useful, and direct my energies so I can grow in the way that I want to grow and become the kind of person that I would feel good about being. Yeah. So to give ourselves a chance to change instead of just saying, no, I'm like this, forget it. Okay, so in Buddhism, we do not have a fixed, solid personality. What we label I is related to our body and mind, both of which are constantly in a state of change. Physically, the subatomic particles of our body are in constant flux, and mentally, our perceptions, moods, thoughts, and emotions continuously change. Do your moods and emotions continually change? Yeah. One moment you're happy, next moment you want to fall asleep. Moment after that, you're angry. Moment after that, you're super excited about something. Yeah, we're in constant flux. So much so that sometimes the people who live with us don't know what to expect in the morning when we sit down for breakfast. Are they getting the kind me who woke up on the right side of the bed, or are they getting the unhappy me who woke up on the wrong side of the bed? Yeah, some of us are pretty, dare I say, moody, and it makes the people who live with us, it's like, okay, who's sitting at breakfast? Are they going to smile or are they going to growl? You know? Okay. Since change is happening every moment, our challenge is to guide it in a productive way. Yeah, so we don't just throw up our hands and say, oh, I'm like this, too bad. We can, see how we want to grow and guide ourselves in that way. Enlightenment does not entail a total makeover of our personality. Some Buddhas may still be introverted and others extroverted. Yeah. What do you think about Chenrezig? Introverted or extroverted? Yeah. Probably extroverted, huh? Okay. But there's some other ones that are more introverted. That, practicing a spiritual tradition doesn't mean you have to change some of those things, yeah? Some Buddhas may be introverted and others extroverted. Some may prefer Mexican food and others Italian food. Yeah. However, enlightenment does entail letting go of certain aspects of our personality, the habitual emotions and attitudes that keep us trapped in a prison of our own making. And in the work that I've done with incarcerated people, and unincarcerated people, yeah, this is really true, how we make our own prison. Yeah. And it's done by the way we think. We have a certain image of ourselves, and we think that's who I am, that's all I can be. And so we just continually play it out again and again. Yeah. And sometimes when our image of ourselves is one is a very derogative one. Yeah, and this actually plagues quite a number of people. I think it's a huge problem in our country, actually. Many people suffer from low self-esteem, and just this idea of, I'm not good enough. Yeah, I can't measure up, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm whatever it is, yeah. And then just saying, oh, that's all I am, that's all I can be. Just give up, yeah? And so we give up on ourselves, and we dig ourselves a nice little hole, we dig ourselves a mental hole, yeah? And then we go sit in that hole, and we decorate the walls of our hole with all the things we failed at, yeah, that we think we failed at. Other people may not think so, be that critical of us, but things where we think we're not good enough. We decorate our hole with all of that. And then we sit there and feel sorry for ourselves. Yeah, because, gee, they passed out Buddhahood, Buddha nature, and I didn't get any. Everybody else can become a fully awakened one, but not me. I'm the hopeless one. Yeah. So, that mental state already inhibits our growth. Yeah. Because we're just saying, I can't do it. Yeah. And getting back to the people I work with in prison, the people who change, what I see happens with them is they say, I used to be like that because of causes and conditions, but I don't want to continue to be like that. And so they steer their mind in a positive direction and cultivate really new habits. And it's remarkable what some of them turn out as when they do this. Other people, in prison, because prison is not a happy environment, just say, well, society has given up on me, so I give up on myself, and then that just perpetuates the negative behavior. Yeah. But, and the people that you see who can really say, I can change, and there's areas in which I want to change. Yeah, I'm not happy with who I am in those areas, and I know I have the potential to do better. And, then they're looking for a method to change, how to guide the mind. And here's where Buddhism comes in, because there's so many techniques for how to do that. Okay, the basic nature of our mind is often compared to the clear, open sky. The sky is always there, although some days it is obscured by clouds, like today. Yesterday, it was bright blue and beautiful. Yeah, the sky's the same, no matter whether the cloud's there or not. Similarly, the basic nature of the mind is pure, whether, the cloud of anger or discouragement obscures it, or whether there's no clouds and just that pure nature shines forth. Okay. However, the clouds are not the nature of the sky. Yeah, so they can be removed. They're just something temporary. Our bad moods are temporary. They're not who we are. We should really not make a personal identity out of them, and we should not think of other people as that's the way they are either. Okay, similarly, the disturbing attitudes and negative emotions, such as anger, are not the nature of our mind and may be abandoned, leaving the radiant and pure nature of the mind. In addition, the disturbing attitudes and negative emotions are based on ignorance. Oh yeah, our old friend, ignorance. We talk about that a lot in Buddhism. Yeah, it doesn't mean like that you don't know the governors of all the countries or all the states or the names of all the state capitals. That we're not talking about that ignorance. We're talking about an ignorance that does not understand who we are and how we exist and how other phenomena and other people exist. But instead of not perceiving how things exist, we don't just not perceive, we impute, we project a wrong way of existing on people and phenomena and believe that's true, and we're so familiar with it that we don't even recognize that we're doing it. Yeah. So ignorance is a particular type. The ignorance we're talking about here is a particular type of ignorance, that which, unaware of the nature of reality, conceives people and phenomena to exist inherently with their own independent essence. Okay? And so we can see how, when we think of ourselves, we feel like there's some essence in here that's really me. Yeah, maybe even a soul, an atma, and something. Call it what you want, but there's, somebody who's me in here. And when we see other people, we feel like there's, somebody who really is that person inside of their body somewhere. We're not quite sure where or what it is, but we feel, there's some independent existing essence in everything. But when we search for what it is, we can't find it. Yeah, indicating that somehow what we think who we think we are is not exactly who we are. Yeah. This always, whenever I say this in a Dharma teaching, it reminds me of my mom, because when I got in trouble when I was little, and isn't today Mother's Day? Oh yeah. So you can check if your mom said the same thing, or those of you who are moms, if you say the same thing. When I got in trouble, yeah, my mother would say, she put her hands on her hips, yeah, just who do you think you are, little girl or young lady? Who do you think you are, young lady? You know, it was actually a very good question. Yeah? Yeah. I wish she had said it in a different tone of voice without the pointy finger. But, you know, I encountered this question, you know, years later when I met the Dharma, where we're asking ourselves, well, just who do I think I am? Yeah? And then it's a good question when you really sit there and ponder it. Yeah, especially when you're in conflict with somebody, you know, not only, you know, get away from their bad and, you know, just who do you think you are treating me like that, pointing the finger. And it's, well, who do I think I am? Well, I think I'm right. I think I'm always right. I would never be wrong. Yeah, I think my advice is something the world should follow. And I also believe that I should always get what I want. And people should always like me. People should always respect me. Because I am me. Yeah. So that's what one part of me answers the question, just who do you think you are? Yeah, but then you have to dig deeper. Okay, I think all of that about myself. Am I really like that? Am I always right? What does being right mean? Yeah, that's an interesting question. Yeah, when you're in conflict with somebody, what does being right mean? Does it mean having all the same, it mean having the better data? Or does it mean how you put the data together to make a conclusion? Or does it mean, what does being right mean? That we always think we're right. Yeah. So there's all these interesting questions to ask ourselves. I think I'm right. What does that mean to me? Yeah. I think everybody should like me. Why? Why should everybody like me? If I were not me and I were somebody else having to engage with me, would I like me? Sometimes that person's kind of overbearing. Sometimes they're stubborn. Sometimes, yeah. I mean, really, if we could step outside of ourselves and look at our own behavior, would we, you know, we say everybody should always like me. Well, why? Do I, you know, if I were not me, would I like me? Yeah. Why do I think everybody should like me? I'm not always likable. But that doesn't matter. People should still like me. Why? You don't need a reason. Just do it. Yeah. Did you get that too sometimes when you got in trouble when you were young? When you started saying why to your mom, you know, or your dad, why should I do that? And the conclusion was always, just do what you're told. Because I said so. Yeah, because I said so. Yeah. Yeah. Didn't you love that? Yeah. Okay. Now, our mothers weren't always like that. We shouldn't have that memory of our mother on Mother's Day or on any other day, because our mothers also got up at 2 o'clock in the morning to feed us when we were screaming, as my mother would say, screaming bloody murder. She used interesting expressions. Yeah. A baby is screaming bloody murder because she's hungry in the middle of the night, and she got up and, they got up and fed us. Yeah. If you were staying, overnight here at the Abbey and in the middle of the night you started crying because you were hungry, I wouldn't get up and feed you. Yeah. But look what our mothers did. It's amazing. Yeah. Okay. So ignorance, is unaware of the nature of reality. It conceives people and phenomena to exist inherently with their own independent essence. Yeah. And this is not the way things actually exist. So when ignorance sees, or not, when wisdom sees that what ignorance believes doesn't exist that way, then ignorance, begins to collapse and wisdom takes over running the show. Yeah. So when ignorance is eliminated, all the harmful mental factors such as anger, greed, stubbornness, low self-esteem, lack of integrity, these kinds of things, they all vanish because they're all supported by ignorance. In the same way that once a tree is uprooted, its branches also die. Yeah. Since ignorance misapprehends reality, it can be abandoned by seeing reality correctly. The mental factor that does this is called wisdom, and for this reason, Buddhist teachings speak extensively about the cultivation of the wisdom that realizes the lack of or emptiness of inherent existence. So before we are able to use wisdom to cut destructive attitudes and emotions at their root, we must rely on easier methods to counteract them. For this reason, the great Buddhist masters, such as Shantideva, talked of a variety of easy-to-use antidotes to anger. Okay, in other words, ways to look at the situation differently so that we don't get angry to start with. So, a remedy to anger is not suppressing it. It's not, swallowing it and pretending that we're not angry. That doesn't get rid of the anger. It's actually learning to describe the situation to ourselves differently, and then the anger doesn't arise to start with. Okay, so Shantideva used a variety of easy-to-use antidotes to anger, techniques to neutralize this poisonous emotion, and most of this book consists of these techniques. But before we can start applying the techniques to overcome anger, we have to see the disadvantages of anger. Yeah. And so, to get over this thing of, when I'm angry, I'm right, and I feel powerful, and I'm gonna, force my way on other people. To actually, question, is anger realistic? Is it helpful? How do I act when I'm angry? Yeah. And do I, act in a way that sometimes is not very kind to other people? Yeah. When you're angry, is being kind to other people foremost in your mind? Forget it. revenge is they hurt me, they attacked me, they defamed me, I'm mad, and they transgressed my rights, so I'm going to fight back. Yeah, that's the way we usually think. Is that happiness? Does that lead to good results? Okay, so the next section, is talking about chapter 2, the disadvantages of anger. So anger may give us a tremendous sense of power, but at the same time, it undermines the happiness of ourselves and others. As Gendun Druk, the first Dalai Lama, said in a prayer to Tara, a female Buddha, driven by the wind of inappropriate attention, amidst a tumult of smoke clouds of misconduct, it has the power to burn down forests of merit. The fire of anger, save us from this danger. Yeah, so anger here is, the analogy of anger is like a fire. Yeah. So we had a fire here, not last year, 2 years ago, the Oregon Road fire. Yeah, it really woke us up. Yeah. Our internal fire of anger, is driven by the wind of inappropriate attention. External wind pushed the Oregon Road fire, all over the area. But our internal mental factor of inappropriate attention, what it does is it looks at a situation and it interprets it in the wrong way. Okay? It projects stuff on it. It doesn't see it accurately. Okay? So maybe somebody doesn't say good morning to me one day, and my inappropriate attention says, uh-oh, they're mad at me. Yeah, I project that on them. Uh-oh, they're mad at me. Then some days I get, oh, what did I do wrong? Or some days I get angry. Again, why are they mad at me? They're always blah, 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 doing this. Yeah? But the whole way I interpreted it was wrong. Somebody didn't say good morning. Does that mean they're mad at me? It could be that they're like me when they get up and they don't, smile instantaneously, but it takes them a while to wake up. Yeah, some of us are still waking up. Yeah, it's almost noon. Yeah. Okay, so that doesn't mean that somebody doesn't like us. It's our inappropriate intention that's the problem. Okay, and then we get angry, and then, we destroy relationships with our anger. So let me ask you another question here. Who do you say the most awful things to? Family members or strangers? Family, isn't it? Yeah. The people we depend on the most, the people we care about the most, we say the most awful things to them. Yeah, things that we would never say to a stranger. Yeah. And with family members, we keep our own internal computer file. Yeah, we don't even need to write it down because we remember it. And it's a list of everything that they've done wrong that we don't like, so that next time we have a really big fight, I can remind them of, you did this and this and this and this and this. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, really, the things we say about the people we care about the most, are the most awful things. So strange, isn't it? Yeah, something's not right about that. And what's not right is, on one side, we impute, inappropriate attention says, these are the most wonderful people of the world, I always want to be with them. And then they do the smallest thing wrong, and inappropriate attention says, oh, they're so awful, they don't appreciate me, they don't love me. Yeah. So inappropriate attention is always making up a story, and we believe the false stories that we tell ourselves. Yeah. So anger is inaccurate in its assessment of reality because, by definition, it is based on exaggeration or superimposition of negative qualities. Yeah? So just think about this. Anger is founded based on superimposition of negative qualities on someone or something. Yeah. However, when we're angry, we don't feel like we're exaggerating or superimposing anything. We feel we're right. In fact, the angry mind seems very clear. I'm right, you're wrong, you need to change. Very simple. Yeah? I'm not misunderstanding anything. You're the one who doesn't listen, blah, 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 blah. Off we go. Yeah? Any of you come from families where anger is a freely distributed good? Yeah. Okay. Under the influence of anger, we select a few negative details and form a limited view that we are then reluctant to change. For example, Diana worked in the same organization as Harry, and although she didn't know him very well, they supported the same goals. Okay. One day, he canceled the workshop she was scheduled to give, and feeling that his action had been unfair, she was angry. For months, every time she saw him or heard his name, something tightened inside of her. This is a true story. I changed the names. Yeah. Okay. Then it occurred to her that based on a half an hour of this person's 45-year-long life, she had formed an opinion of him, of who he was, that she was certain was correct. Yeah. So surely, she realized, he is much more than this one unfortunate encounter we had. Okay, now, in the true story, I was Diana. I was supposed to do a workshop with another friend of mine, and the people who were planning it at this conference, he okayed it, and then at the last minute, he canceled it. We worked so hard to put this together, and it was going to be a great workshop that people at this conference really needed to hear. It would help them so much. And he's biased and prejudiced and thought our workshop wasn't worth anything and just canceled it. And oh, I was mad. Yeah? Of course, I'm sweet. I didn't tell him. But, inside, every time, because he was the director of this thing, of the conference. And so every time somebody thanked him, I'm inside going, no. Yeah. Every time somebody just said something nice about him, no, I know who he really is. And then I realized one day, it was based on one action he did for about a half an hour in his whole life, and I'm accusing other people of being biased. I'm the one who's, making a snap judgment of somebody based on little evidence. Yeah. Okay. Surely, she realized, he is much more than this one unfortunate encounter we had. Seeing that her anger was inaccurate, she let go of her fixed opinion of him. Since Deanna no longer scowled at him, Harry became friendlier to her. Gee, imagine that, and eventually they were able to discuss and resolve the cancellation of her workshop. Yeah. Holding on to and nurturing a fixed, inaccurate opinion of someone breeds suspicion and continual unhappiness. When we are mad at somebody, everything he does appears wrong, isn't it? Yeah, when you're mad or when you don't like somebody, they can't do anything right. Everything they do is wrong in one way or another. Okay, and we take even the simplest act that they do as more evidence that our negative view of him is correct. Yeah, you start looking at, and this is, you think everybody in a monastery gets along, so, Venerable A gets mad at Venerable B, and then, who knows what it started out as. But then Venerable A starts saying, and Venerable B doesn't line his shoes up at the door properly. He just kicks them off. I know this is world traumatizing, and it's worthy of discussion. Yeah, but this is the level it gets when we decide we don't like somebody. Everything they do is wrong. Yeah, they don't take off their shoes and put them in the right place. Yeah, they slurp when they drink their tea, and we don't like the noise. Yeah, they walk out of the door and just let it close naturally when they should hold on to it and make it close gently. Everything this person does is wrong. Yeah, including they can't even wear their robe right. Yeah, it's always like this. Yeah, but me, I never do that. Okay? Amazing. We human beings sometimes are so silly that we have to laugh at ourselves. Okay. When we are mad at someone, everything he does appears wrong, and we take even the simplest act as more evidence that our negative view of him is correct. In the above example, every time Harry made eye contact with Deanna and greeted her, she thought he was ridiculing her, taunting her because he had more power. Yeah? Why did she think this? Because she had made up a view of who he was. In fact, he knew she was upset and was trying to create a friendly space in which he could talk with her about what had happened. But she was interpreting his friendly overtures as ridiculing her. Yeah. Okay, one more paragraph. Psychologists speak of a refractory period that accompanies an emotion. During this time, we are closed to any advice or reasonable interpretation that contradicts our view. We can neither think clearly about a situation nor accept others' interpretations of it that well-meaning people may offer to us. The refractory period may be short, just a few seconds, or it may last years and even decades. When the emotion subsides and we are able to look at the event more clearly, we readily see, as Diana did, that anger's interpretation was inaccurate. Yeah, I received an interesting email yesterday from somebody who had come to the Abbey and who I had seen in different Dharma things, who had very, very firm political opinions. Yeah, extremely firm political opinions. And he was right, and anybody who didn't agree was wrong. So he and I did not, agree on some things. And he was, made an effort to really give me some information about how I was wrong. Okay. So that's okay. I mean, he was a Dharma student and young, and so I know how that is. And then yesterday he wrote and he apologized. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, this is really something. It was very courageous of him. Yeah. He wrote and he, explained why he had believed certain things and how he had changed and why he has a different view now. I was a little bit concerned that he sounded a little bit too fixed in his new view. Yeah, because I think the trick in this whole thing that we all have to learn is how to talk to people who have different views than we do without just labeling them bad, incorrect, stupid, or whatever we happen to label them, but to be able to have an interesting discussion with them. Yeah. So I haven't responded yet, but yeah, I will. And yeah, I think it was actually quite brave of him to do. Okay, so it's 1 minute past the time we were supposed to stop. I know. If I'm really conscious of the time now, it's because on the tour in Europe, my assistant was German. And in Germany, everything runs on time and everything is, very fixed. So she got this lazy American to be more focused on starting and ending on time. But I'm still a little bit rebellious. Okay, so let's dedicate the merit, and then something else happens. Are you in charge of the something else? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Thank you, Venerable. So now we'll rise as Venerable Chodron leaves the hall.
He's kicking me out. I know it. He always does this kind of thing.
We're inviting you to leave.
See, after it, he always covers up for what he did and makes an excuse. Yeah.
Now we're going to do something else.
Yeah. Now but you see how interpretations work, and we just brand something on somebody and think that's the way they always are. So I know.
So now Selden would like to speak with the group. Selden.
So I wanted to talk about, in Buddhism they call it dana, or donations, and how the Sangha, the monastics here, rely solely on that. So Venerable Chodron and others can teach these common sense but hard to practice ways to change our minds around ourselves and others that create peace in our own minds and not afflict others, make others angry. And all the donations that the Abbey gets are so they can keep doing this. So there's a place where people can come and feel safe and not judged by their political or religious views, and where people truly care about, their suffering and their happiness. Right now, they're building a Buddha hall, and it's very close to getting finished, and there's still some work left to do to complete that. And also, if you did donate, your donations go out to help innumerable people on the internet through free teachings, thousands of hours of teachings that they offer freely. So if you would like to donate, there's a donation box in the back by the Kuan Yin statue, also down in the book nook in the corner downstairs. And online, there's a donation button on the home page. And if you do decide to donate with a mind that really wants to help others to have happiness and avoid suffering. Thank you.
Okay, so now we have about a 10-minute break before lunch. So this will